Hello everyone, today I'm going to show you how to use a single exposure to create a panorama-like image. Hello and welcome to Luminar Coffee Break. I'm your host, Angela Andrieux, and today I want to show you a creative cropping technique that lets you use a single image to make an image that looks like a panorama. I want to take a quick moment and say hello to Joseph and Robert. Thanks so much for joining me today. If you have any questions as we're going through today's session, make sure you pop those into the comments and I'll do my best to get those answered for you. All right, so the image that we're working on today is a photo that I captured a couple of weeks ago when I was in Sedona, Arizona. It's a beautiful, amazing place, but we had really minimal clouds in the sky, so when I captured this image, I ended up with a lot of negative space here at the top of the screen. I decided to make this into a panorama-like image because I thought it really showcased this beautiful rock formation here, a little bit of the valley, it gives it a bit of scale, and cut back on what, there's nothing happening up here at the top. So let me show you how I did it. I also want to say hello to Mickey. Hello, Harry. Great to see you today. All right, so I'm going to start with our Enhance AI tool, and that's just going to give me a better idea of where I'm going with this image. You can see as I pull this to the right, it is cutting through some of that haze, giving us a better pop of color, a bit of contrast, overall improving the image. I'm also going to use our sky enhancer because I love what it's doing here. It's bringing out a bit more of the blue, but it's also giving a little bit more definition to these clouds that are right here on the horizon. So we can go ahead and pull that up as well. Now that I have a better representation of what this image could be, let's just take a quick look here at our before and after. I'm going to go to Composition AI and crop this into my panorama. So I'm going to go here to the ratio, click on free, so I have free control of every angle here. I can go ahead and just pull this down, and I think right about there looks good. I'm also going to pull in from the side a little bit because there's a little bit, going on over here, but it's not the most interesting part, and I really just want to bring it down into this area here. For me, the flow of the composition is I'm seeing the light across the valley. It leads me up this butte here and kind of around the image and leads me right back in this circle right here. So that's what I'm going for with this particular crop. And because we've been at this kind of long, narrow aspect ratio that it gives us that panoramic look, you could even get this printed big and wide and put it up on your wall, like behind a sofa or something like that, and it'll look amazing. You just want to make sure you're not cropping too much off of the right and left side, depending on what camera you're using, how many megapixels you have, and how many overall pixels you have. You don't want to crop in too much because that's going to limit how large you can print it. All right, from there I'm going to hit return on my keyboard. You can also just close the Composition AI tool to close that out. And let's go ahead and keep editing. I'm going to go next to the light tool and add a little bit of smart contrast. And I love how that's just adding some depth and dimension there. I'm also going to pull back on my highlights, and because the brightest part of the image is the sky, you'll see it's bringing back even more of that blue and adding further definition to those few clouds that we do have. Pull that down a little bit more, and that's looking good. Next, we'll go to structure. And if you guys have been watching me for a while, you know that I add structure to just about every image that I work on. Sometimes it's just a little bit, sometimes it's really dramatic, and I like it because it adds that mid-tone clarity and the appearance of detail. So let's go ahead and pull this up. You'll see if I take it too far, it starts looking what I like to call crunchy. Those details are just a little bit overwhelming, so you want to pull that back. Make sure it stays looking natural, but it just gives it a little bit extra pop of detail. I think right about there looks great. The last thing I want to do here in the Essentials section is visit the Landscape tool. If you go back and look here at the original, you'll see it was actually fairly hazy. There was some natural atmosphere in the sky that was clouding a bit of that detail. We want to cut through that with our dehaze tool. And dehaze also happens to make our warmer tones even warmer. So you'll see if I pull that up too high, the colors start getting unnatural. We want to make sure we keep that down at a lower level. But you'll see, especially through here, how much detail that brought out in the rock face. We can turn that off and back on, and it's a subtle but powerful change. We can also add a little bit of extra golden hour if we want. That does start to make some of these colors here look a bit bright, but those rocks really are that red. It's one of those things that's very subjective, how you want your print to look. So if I take a look here at the before and the after, if you feel like those colors have gotten a little bit too intense, you don't necessarily need to add that golden hour, or you can go back to color and just pull back a little bit on that vibrance, and it'll take the edge off of some of those most saturated tones. All right, the last thing I want to do here is go down to our color harmony. And again, here you can work with your brilliance or warmth and things like that. But the tool that's going to make the most difference for me in this section is the split color warmth. And I like it because it allows me to deal with the warm and the cool tones separately. Right now my warm tones look great, but my cool tones actually look a little bit too cool, especially here in the shadows. It's just not quite warm enough for my taste. So I'm going to grab those cool tones, this cool slider, and actually warm up those cooler tones, and you'll see how that's bringing a little bit more color out of these rocks. It does impact the color of the sky, but it does make the trees down here look a little bit more green. So you can go ahead and adjust that to the point that you think it looks natural. And I think right there is a nice happy balance between warming up these rocks and maintaining the blue of the sky. A couple of other things that I might do is a little bit of dodging and burning to lighten up this small path of light here through the valley, darken up some of these edges that are already naturally in the shadows. It just gives it a further hint of contrast. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to go here to my dodge and burn tool, pull back on the strength. I'm going to keep that pretty low, and I'm going to do just a quick swipe of light here across that valley. Now I'm going to go to darken, again bring that strength down really low, and I'm just going to slightly darken a few areas to really guide the eye and let my viewer know where I want their eye to travel. So some of these areas that are already naturally a little bit in the shadows, we're going to darken those down. And it just further adds a little bit of drama to that image. So you can now really see that little path of light coming here across the valley, and then how it sweeps you up into the rocks. So let's turn that off and back on again. And I like that. If you feel like you went a little bit too far, you can always back off that overall amount and make that to your taste. And then let's take a look at our overall before. Oops, I got to close out of dodge and burn. There we go. Our before and our after. Now, in looking at this, it is very rich and colorful. If you think it went a little too far, make sure you go down to this overall amount slider here at the bottom. Excuse me.